Oh, it's only week 5, and a lot of you drafted an elite receiver early. You already are hurting. I mean, Malik Neighbors done, Tyreek Hill gone, AJ Brown done.
Wait, what happened to AJ Brown? He got hurt?
No, did you see his IG post? Well, thankfully, there are still quite a few wide receivers you can count on, but we'll tell you who should be in your lineup and who shouldn't be for week 5. Don't forget, there are 4 teams that are going to be on bye this week. That's the Falcons, the Bears, the Packers, and the Steelers. And there's still just a handful of receivers that we're going to call must starts no matter what. It's Puka Nacua, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and I can't believe I'm saying this, Quentin Johnston.
If we've helped you at all this season, we ask one small favor from you. Please hit that subscribe button down below. We're on the road to 100K subscribers this year. I know we can do it. There are a lot of people who watch this channel regularly that are not subscribed. If you're one of those people, do us a massive solid. Take 1 second, hit that subscribe button.
So the first game of the week is 49ers at Rams. I mean, Puka right now looks like he's just going to be the number 1 player in all of fantasy at this point. You don't question that. You start him. You definitely have questions about the 49ers receivers, starting with questions like, are they ever going to play a full game? And do I even want to care about whether to start them this week? But we have to ask that question, and we only have till Thursday to figure it out.
Yeah, this is tough. I mean, Ricky Pearsall dealing with a minor PCL injury, Juwan Jennings with those ribs and everything else that he's dealing with right now. Brock Purdy looking terrible. He might not even play here. Oh, short week. I mean, I'm just going to say flexes for these guys. It's like I almost don't even want to deal with this, to be honest. I can't believe we're going to have to answer all these questions about these guys on Thursday. Not looking forward to this. Flexes.
Well, at least it'll be done by Thursday. I'm really tempted to just say, just sit, don't deal with this. But realistically, if you know before the game that, let's say, either Pearsall or Jennings are playing, I think they are at least a high upside but risky flex. I will just say, look, with Jennings, before the season started, I was like, I'm done. I don't want to draft this guy. I don't regret that. I was huge on Pearsall before the season, and man, just if he could just stay healthy, it could still happen. But man, he's the one dealing with the injury here. I would rather sit him if possible. Now with Davante Adams, no questions. I mean, he looks still like an elite receiver in a really good pass offense.
Yeah, really good pass offense. Not scared of this 49ers defense this week. We've seen Davante Adams be good pretty much almost every week this year, even with Puka going nuts. There's still plenty here for Adams. He's got to be solid this week.
Very solid, despite that he's got a not just target hog. I don't know what you would call Puka at this point. Target monster, target kaiju. He still is a really good, probably the best number 2 receiver in the game here. And so very solid pick. Can't say strong because it's still a kind of a tough matchup here. But look, I'll tell you what. If you look at underdog, the early lines here, you go higher, lower, 51.5 yards. That seems kind of like a gimme for Davante Adams. So I'm going to take the higher. You want to do that too, go for it. And if you're new to underdog, remember, you can take this pick and pair it with your gimme pick. They give you one, it's a freebie. And also, if you sign up and use code ENDGAME as a new customer, you get a special pick. You also get a deposit match of up to $1,000 of bonus cash. Plus, they're still giving you $100 of bonus cash as soon as you put $5 towards any picks. So go ahead and sign up, use code ENDGAME, and make your picks. Now this week we have another international game over in London. We got the Vikings once again, and they're playing the Browns this time. All right, so Justin Jefferson is still a must start, as you saw, even with Carson Wentz at quarterback. And Jordan Addison also had himself a 100-yard game and an almost touchdown. But this is probably going to be a little bit tougher of a matchup.
Yeah, I should have scored on that. I've seen it like 10 times. I'm like, how did he not score on that? But anyways, I mean, look, he can always do that, right? He always has that boom potential, but this is not a great spot here. If you need to flex him, you can. Just understand it's risky this week.
Yeah, I think he's always going to be at least a high upside flex, if not more. I almost don't want to say this shouldn't be a high-scoring game. We didn't think last week's would be a high-scoring game with the Steelers and the Vikings, but you never know. Look, the Browns, again, good defense, not good offense. I think that keeps Addison as a flex play. And speaking of that, not good offense, especially the passing offense, I mean, Judkins is good, but Joe Flacco, not so much. And Jerry Jeudy, I mean, look, he is not helping at all. I feel like, honestly, almost half of these interceptions that Flacco has thrown have gone somehow through Jerry Jeudy's hands. Look, I don't even think the question is, do you want to start Jerry Jeudy? Is, do you even need to still hold Jerry Jeudy?
I mean, I don't, because I didn't draft Jerry Jeudy anywhere. I'm certainly not starting Jerry Jeudy if I had Jerry Jeudy. No Browns wide receivers should be started this week.
I don't want Jeudy still, and I did talk about Isaiah Bond as far as like a deep league waiver wire ad. This is a stash. I do not want to start Isaiah Bond this week, and this is only because Cedric Tillman, by the way, is not going to play, so we're not talking Tillman because he's injured. Bond is interesting, but more like later in the year. All right, now the Cowboys at the Jets. George Pickens, never doubted you for a moment. All right, maybe a slight moment. Okay, so Pickens did go off and have a big game against the Packers, so now he gets the Jets. I mean, can we possibly doubt him?
No, cannot doubt. Look, I said like last week, I have my doubts. Can this guy step up and do it? Yeah, he stepped up and did it. So, apologies to George Pickens. You did it. You know what's crazy is I talked about this guy on almost every offseason video. It was like, you got to draft George Pickens, and then when the opportunity presents itself, I'm like, I'm not sure about George Pickens. Like, what's wrong with me? George Pickens has to be a strong start. It's a Jets. Come on, this defense is terrible. Strong start.
Yeah, this defense has not been any good. So, yeah, there's no reason really to doubt him now. And the Cowboys' pass offense, hey, they were able to put up points. And I don't think that will extend to Kevontae Turpin or Jalen Tolbert for me. Just not enough here. Not enough targets, I think, to go around. So let's do better as far as your flex options. Now, as far as the Jets, I think there's still only one wide receiver worth talking about. But again, there's no reason to doubt Garrett Wilson pretty much ever.
No, look, he's not going to go off every single week, but it's the Cowboys. He certainly could do it again. This is a guy I just have to have in my lineup. I mean, borderline must start, honestly. Strong start this week.
I really wish the Jets did have another receiver that was even somewhere on the radar because it's the Cowboys, but they don't. And so let's just assume Garrett Wilson's going to have like 300 yards this week.
Do you want to get advice from Pierre and myself at the tip of your fingertips? Start sit, waiver wire, trades, and more? Well, you can do all of this and more on our new app, Draft Lane. We have the ability to view your roster, waivers, and more to give you the right feedback to make the perfect choice. Download Draft Lane from the App Store or Google Play, or use these handy QR codes. And first-time users can use code ENDGAME to get 10 free credits and get your questions answered today.
Now, Giants taking on the Saints in New Orleans. Probably not going to be a whole lot of scoring in this game. Just going to go out on a limb here. So the Giants still rolling out Jackson Dart. Not rolling out Malik Neighbors, sadly. And so we got guys like Wan'Dale Robinson, Darius Slayton, other guys. Anybody here on the radar?
I think Wan'Dale and Slayton are probably on the radar, but just as flexes, only because it's the Saints. But like, they had a very vanilla game plan last week, right? Like very easy passes, have Jackson Dart run the ball a lot. I doubt that's going to change versus this defense, so just flexes.
Yeah, just flexes. I mean, I agree there. I think Slayton, I talked him up on the waiver wire. I think he's the one. Even though a lot of people might still have Wan'Dale Robinson, picked him up after that monster game in week 2, which he will never replicate. Darius Slayton's probably the one who benefits the most from Neighbors' absence. And the Saints defense, look, they're bottom 5 in terms of yards per target allowed to wide receivers and catch rate. It's just how many targets is he getting? So Slayton's kind of like your high upside flex, and Wan'Dale is your really boring flex. And speaking of, there's the Saints offense. All right, Chris Olave scored, right? It's a pretty decent game last week. So can he do better in this matchup? And then what about a guy like Rashid Shaheed?
I think Chris Olave just is going to live in the solid tier here. I certainly prefer him more in PPR leagues. I know he scored last week, but we're not banking on that every single week. The Giants do have a good secondary, so this may not be the highest scoring game of the week here. I think I can comfortably predict that, but he's solid. Shaheed, he's just a risky, touchdown or bust flex that you really don't need to start.
Yeah, and I'm going to say, going off of that, what I said about the Browns, I feel like Giants, also one of these teams, it's just always going to be low scoring because their defense is pretty good and their offense is not. And so I don't feel like this is going to be a shootout. They're not going to be coming from behind, throwing it 50 times. So Olave's still solid based on target share. Shaheed, it's not exciting enough for me. Now, Raiders are going to take on the Colts in week 5. And so this pass offense took a step backwards, 3 steps backwards every time Geno Smith threw an interception. So Jacoby Myers was pretty much hamstrung by his quarterback. Does it get better this week? And do you consider Trey Tucker?
No, okay. Wan'Dale Robinson, Troy Franklin, Trey Tucker. It's going to be wrong. You know who it's going to be? It's going to be Romeo Doubs this week. This week, everybody's going to be like, I got to start Romeo Doubs, and he's not going to score 3 touchdowns again. How many times are we going to chase these 1 week wonders? No, not starting Trey Tucker. Jacoby Myers, very disappointing here. Geno Smith looked horrendous. I'm just going to put Jacoby Myers as a flex. Like, everything I thought that was going to happen for Jacoby Myers this year with Geno Smith is not happening because Geno Smith has turned back into a pumpkin. So until we see Geno Smith improve, he's just a flex.
Yeah, so I can sit Tucker as well. Agree, I think it's over. As far as Jacoby Myers, I like to say he could be solid. Remember, he did have a first 2-3 good games. I mean, last week, I don't think Geno Smith is that bad. I also don't think he's significantly better. But at the same time, you got to realize they didn't even need to throw the ball that much because Genty was just running up and down the field like crazy. I think this is not like a get right spot. It's like a get better spot. So I feel like Jacoby is kind of a solid play. And then for the Colts, I'm not going to talk about A.D. Mitchell. Let's talk about Michael Pittman, though. I mean, he's been pretty solid all year. Is he still just solid?
I don't see why not. Why? I mean, he's been pretty. If you take out the game where he had to face Pat Surtain, he's been mostly good. So, yeah, solid.
Yeah, and I don't think we can go too much higher because even though the Raiders aren't a great defense, this team is just not going to pass the ball enough. All right, so we got the Dolphins at the Panthers. Not just a battle of 1 and 3 teams. It's the battle of the teams that are fighting to see who can have the most injured wide receivers. The Dolphins are going to be without Tyreek Hill. I mean, if you saw anything about that replay on Monday night, you already know. So, we got Jalen Waddle, and then it looks like Malik Washington might have to step up. So, does the potential of increased target share for Waddle make him more interesting?
It certainly makes it more interesting, but I'll say, like, prior to last week and Stephon Diggs having a nice game against them, Panthers have been really good against wide receivers. I think Drake London had like the next best fantasy game against them, and he scored 10 fantasy points. They've actually been a good, defense. They have J.C. Horn, and Jalen Waddle does not go in the slot much. He's mostly on the outside, so I can't get too excited. Even with Tyreek Hill out, I can't be like, oh, Jalen Waddle, bump him way up. I'm just gonna say a flex this week. Let me see his target share go way up.
Yeah, understandable, and you're right. The Panthers' pass defense has gotten better each passing week. But look, this team is going to have to throw the ball, and it's Waddle. That's it. Unless you're buying into the Darren Waller comeback fully, I'm not. I think Waddle, just based on volume, is going to be a solid pick for me this week. And we'll see about Malik Washington. I think he could be a flex play only because there are buys, and he is one of those guys who does have the speed to house it. And on that note, we're still waiting for Teteroa McMillan's first NFL touchdown, his first monster game. Does it come against this Dolphins defense?
It could, although I will say the Dolphins, they're not great against the pass, but they're really bad against the run. So we'll see here. But he's still getting, everything we want to see as far as having that big breakout game. It just hasn't happened. Like the connection of Bryce Young just not there. Bryce Young just not there yet either. But this is certainly a spot where it could happen. I think Ted's got to be solid this week.
The Panthers are going to be one of the most unpredictable teams. They win, 30-0, and then they get blown out 42-13. It's like, what are we going to get this week? Well, they're back at home against a bad team. I think we'll see a better version. McMillan was limited with that calf last week. If he's healthy, I'm not going to say this is like his rival, his monster game, but I think he's at least still a very solid pick. All right, now let's talk Broncos at Eagles. Yeah, so 2 very good teams. 2 teams with good defenses as well, though. So I got to ask, even though Cortland Sutton coming off another really good game, are you worried here that we might see another down game against this Eagles secondary?
I mean, you got to be a little worried here, but the last time we were worried about Cortland Sutton against the Chargers, he went off against them. So I cannot drop Cortland Sutton down too much. I mean, obviously last week said he would boom, strong start. This week, just a solid start because of the matchup. And like Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, I know he scored, but this is the Eagles. I'm not starting those guys.
The other receivers for Denver are always going to be risky flex at best. Against this matchup with the Eagles, I will say just no. Worst case scenarios, they do nothing for you. So I think you can sit Mims and Franklin. Maybe I'm too worried here, but look, it's not just like Kenyon Mitchell is one of those corners who can shadow and maybe not shut down a receiver, but definitely limit the other team's best receiver. Cooper DeJean, their other corner, he's the third highest graded corner by PFF. They have two really good corners, so I'm still not seeing exactly what I want to see out of Bo Nix. I'm worried enough, I'll say Sutton is a high ceiling flex, but I don't feel great about him this week. But if there's a receiver anybody's worried about, it's A.J. Brown, and that goes without saying. He doesn't seem worried. He's like, yeah, whatever. Maybe that should be concerning in and of itself that he doesn't seem to be worried.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the guy, I don't know. Whatever. I don't really care what A.J. Brown feels. What I care about is my fantasy teams, where thankfully I did not draft A.J. Brown. But if I had A.J. Brown, I would be certainly terrified. This guy's had one good half of football this year. I mean, he got 9 targets on Sunday. It wasn't like he didn't throw it to him. Only 2 catches, 7 yards. Now the Broncos, Pat Surtain. I mean, I don't even think it's crazy if you want to sit A.J. Brown this week. I can't go that far. I'll just say a flex. And same with Devonta Smith. These guys are just flexes this week.
Yeah, I mean, just strictly based on the numbers and the matchup, he's a risky flex. And based on everything else, like, don't read too much into it. But yes, you have reason to be concerned. So if you want to sit him, that is fine. All right, now let's talk Texans at Ravens. The Houston offense, the Baltimore defense. It's like the movable object against the unwilling to move force or something like that. Like the Texans did score a little bit last week. Do they do it again because this Baltimore defense is that bad? And look, Nico Collins, I guess we can't consider him a must start anymore, but you can't feel that bad about him this week.
No, do not bench Nico Collins this week. Please, this is the Ravens. I mean, look, they just made the Chiefs look like the Chiefs offense we were used to a few years ago. They can't stop anybody right now. They're decimated by injuries here. You have to start Nico Collins this week. Strong start this week.
Pretty much a must start. It's understandable. We can't say he's a no doubt must start because shallow leagues, maybe you do have a better option, but probably not. And then for Baltimore's offense, it's also fair to worry because, look, Lamar Jackson left that game with a hamstring strain. We don't know the severity right now, but I mean, it's possible. Maybe he does miss this game. So, considering that plus this Houston defense, what do you make of Zay Flowers?
Well, if Lamar Jackson doesn't play, I don't think you can start Zay Flowers. But assuming Lamar Jackson plays, I'm going to say solid, but low end, like risky solid, because this is a tough matchup. And as we've seen the last couple of weeks, like Zay Flowers can disappear, but also Zay Flowers can have those monster games. So I always have trouble benching Zay Flowers.
Kind of half joked last week, he's like a risky strong pick. Like you always feel he's got that ceiling and not the floor. So look, Houston's really good. Derek Stingley Jr. is really good. 11th in yards per target to receiver. That's not elite, but last year when they played each other, Flowers only had 31 yards. Even if Lamar plays, maybe he's not 100%. I think he's just a risky flex. All right, Titans at Cardinals. Not a lot to say here about the Titans pass offense, but look, Calvin Ridley, let's just assume he's still out there next week. We got the rookie Alec Iomanner, who had been looking good. Can you trust him?
No, you can't trust this offense right now. I mean, maybe one of them scores, but that's really it. And no, I'm not starting these guys.
No, until things change drastically, probably not. And look, wouldn't be surprising if we see Calvin Ridley in another uniform pretty soon before the trade deadline. And then for Arizona, still only one receiver worth talking about. It's Marvin Harrison Jr., who a lot of people were talking about last week. Saved his game with that pretty impressive touchdown grab. But you still can't feel great about him, can you?
No, I mean, if you watch that game like I did, you cannot feel good about Marvin Harrison. I mean, he was looking terrible for 3.5 quarters, and then the Cardinals kind of came alive at the end when they had to, and he got the touchdown, and he ended up with a nice stat line, but you can't bank on that. I know it's the Titans, so you feel good here, but how much are the Cardinals even going to have to throw in this game? Like, are they really even have to, like, really put the foot on the gas like they had to at the end of last week? I don't think so. Like, you can always flex Marvin Harrison. He always has the upside to do what he did last week, but he always has the risk to kill you.
Yeah, I don't feel great necessarily, but it is the Titans. I think just based on the fact he is the only receiver who basically gets targeted, the target share, the matchup, I'll say he's at least a solid pick. I mean, he should at least have a floor. Our Bucs taking on the Seahawks this week. JSN still a set and forget. Some people are probably there with Emeka Egbuka. Like, you cannot sit this guy. He scores a touchdown every week. He can't score a touchdown every week, can he? And then Chris Godwin is there. Although you wouldn't notice much from the box score, does he get better?
Well, talking about Egbuka, yeah, I mean, maybe he's going to score every week, but again, kind of like, if you watch the running back video, talked about the Buc, he really saved his day on that long touchdown, which I still don't know how it was even completed. Like, it looked like for sure it was going to be an interception or at least deflected, and somehow it got past both Eagles defenders and Egbuka, housed it. I mean, he can do that, right? But this is not a great matchup against the Seahawks defense here on the road in Seattle. But at the same time, I can't drop him like too far. He's still solid. I think he's going to be lower end solid for me this week, but still solid. And I'll say Godwin, you should feel pretty good. This guy was out there a ton. I was wrong. I thought he was going to be no, he was not limited. He had 9 targets last week. They just didn't connect. I think it'll get a little better, but you still can't feel great here. Just a flex.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much with you on both counts. Egbuka is getting targets. He always has such an upside. Baker Mayfield just doesn't seem to care what the matchup is. He's going to sling it. So let's put Egbuka as a solid. And then Godwin, he's still not close to 100% physically. Got a lot of targets, but there were a lot of missed targets there. So it's going to take some time. On the road in Seattle, he's just a flex. And then for Seattle, besides JSN, there's Cooper Kupp. Is Torrey Horton. You like either of them at home against the Bucs?
Nah, these are just risky, please score a touchdown type of starts here. No, thank you.
Yeah, I actually was surprised in the research here. I feel like Tampa, they're really good against the run. I didn't realize they have 2 of the top 7 graded cornerbacks so far, according to PFF. They've got some good defense against these outside receivers, and then Cooper Kupp, I don't really care if he's in the slot or wherever. I'm not starting Cooper Kupp. Lions versus Bengals this week. There's only one must-start receiver in this matchup. It's not Jamar Chase, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown. But before we get there, let's talk about Jameson Williams. I mean, this is 3 out of 4 games where he's been disappointing. Is this a get-right spot because it's the Bengals?
This is absolutely a get-right spot against the Bengals. And look, he actually led the team in targets last week. I don't know if that's going to continue, but at least it was nice to see he got involved after hardly being involved in the first 3 games. We know Jameson, right? He could catch 2 or 3 passes and get you 40, 50 yards, and you're like, that wasn't really worth it. Or he could hit on a huge play, and you're like, yes, I'm glad I started him. If there's a week he's going to hit on a huge play, it's going to be against the Bengals. I think he's going to be a flex, but he's going to be like a good flex this week.
Exactly. It's like you don't feel comfortable putting him in your lineup because you know what the low floor is, but this could be the week. So, I mean, this really comes down to your other options. So, very high upside flex. Definitely a guy I would probably take the higher on, as far as his underdog lines, though. Now the Bengals receivers. All right, so Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. I think they're missing Joe Burrow just a little bit. They're back at home this week, but they face the Lions. I mean, look, if you got Jamar Chase, obviously you don't have to start him, but I mean, how strongly do you consider just benching probably the number 1 pick in all of fantasy?
I'm not there yet. I'm going to keep him solid, but again, low end, risky, solid. It's kind of brutal that like they lose Joe Burrow and then they have, tough matchup. They have to face the Vikings, the Broncos, now the Lions, just all these good defenses in a row. But Chase is a guy who can always take any play to the house by himself, so I can't completely bench him, but very risky this week. And T. Higgins, like I was kind of encouraged. He had like 2 catches for 25 yards to start the game and then disappeared. I think you can sit T. Higgins.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you exactly. Chase always has that potential. I'm going to keep him solid. I'll keep Higgins as a flex, not my favorite flex, because again, this defense isn't quite as good as Denver's and Minnesota's pass defense, and they are back at home. Maybe they're just good enough. Now, Commanders taking on the Chargers this week. Sounds like Jaden Daniels will be back. Doesn't sound good for Terry McLaurin. I mean, we haven't heard anything definitive, but I would be shocked if he even plays. If he does, do you risk it?
Well, I don't know. That's going to be tough. I thought I heard something today from Dan Quinn saying, like, they're feeling good or he's progressing or something, but who really knows? It's only, it's early in the week still, but yeah, you can't feel good if he plays coming off an injury here, and it's the Chargers. It's not a great matchup, so I'll say if he plays, you can flex him because he's got that upside, but you can't feel great. Then, of course, this makes it tough because now it's like, well, if Terry plays, how do you feel about Debo and Luke McCaffrey? If Terry doesn't play, how do you feel about him? I'll say Debo if Terry doesn't play. I mean, he's got to be solid, right? I mean, it's not a great spot for him here, but get the targets, he could score, and then Luke McCaffrey just kind of like a desperation flex.
Right. Look, if McLaurin does give it a go, it's a risky flex. Definitely not the worst flex option out there. Debo, I think, is solid either way. He's getting targeted no matter what. With Jaden Daniels, got to feel better. He's looking, I wouldn't say like the old Debo, but he definitely looks better than last year's version of Debo, that's for sure. McCaffrey is like your very desperate kind of flex because basically you're banking on a touchdown. All right, now those Chargers receivers, after a little arm twisting, I was convinced to say, all right, you just have to start Quentin Johnson at this point. Why not? Go QJ. I don't think you have to start Ladd McConkey anymore. Just going to come out and say that. I know, hot take. And then Keenan Allen probably lies somewhere in between.
Yeah, this is a great matchup for the Chargers passing attack against the Commanders. Look, you picked Drake London as a boom last week after he hadn't really had a good start, saying, hey, let's attack this defense here through the air, and we saw what the Falcons were able to do at home against this defense. Now we get the Justin Herbert and the Chargers at home against this defense. I think Keenan's got to be a solid start this week, even though he finally had a down game last week. And I mean, Ladd, I think there are worse options this week in this matchup than Ladd, but, just a risky flex.
Yeah, so for that exact reason, one of the reasons that I thought London would feast last week, I'm going to say Keenan is a strong start along with QJ, a must start. And Ladd, you could still flex him. Look, among all the concerning stats, one thing is that his first read target percentage has gone down every week. And guys like Arondé Gadsden, the tight end, his target share is going up every week. I don't know what's going on here, but yeah, he is just a risky flex. And then Patriots taking on the Bills this week, which of course means revenge game for Stephon Diggs, just because. All right, so Diggs finally had a nice game last week, looking better. Kayshon Boutte still doing not much since week one. What do you think happens in this matchup?
Well, this is a tough defense. Like the Bills, much worse against the run than the pass, and you just never know. Stephon, they ran 17 routes last week. What? They did? Yeah, man, I don't know. They just don't really seem to be a pass-heavy team. Maybe they'll have to be against the Bills though. Boutte, no, you can sit Boutte if you're even still holding Boutte. Diggs, I'm gonna say a flex. I know it's you want to chase that game. He's solid, and it is a revenge game. Maybe he'll be fired up, but I just can't feel great about him in this offense. Let me see him string together some games where I'm oh, okay, maybe they are actually going to target this guy a bunch week after week.
Well, I certainly don't think Diggs is safe, but the thing is, this isn't just one game where he was heavily involved. Remember, he was in week one and then kind of tailed off. This is 2 games, but also he's getting better as the season goes on, getting a little bit healthier, back into shape, and, familiar with the playbook. That helps. They're going to have to pass the ball a lot, especially to the wideouts against the Buffalo Bills. Just going to go out on a limb and say that. So I feel like Diggs will get enough targets this week. I think he's solid. Boutte, no. And speaking of solid, that's pretty much what Khalil Shakir is. And then is there any other Bills receiver that might interest you this week?
No other Bills wide receiver. And yeah, Shakir is solid. He's not going to score every week. He doesn't have the highest ceiling necessarily, but he's fine.
That's it. Shakir's solid, and everyone else can sit. Then we'll end the week with the Chiefs at the Jaguars. All right, so now it does kind of look like the old Chiefs offense, although let's not get carried away here. Xavier Worthy looked pretty good. He's helpful. Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, I guess we can't ignore. This is 2 games in a row. He's gotten a decent amount of targets. Tyquan Thornton, another touchdown. So it looks like we have multiple possibly fantasy relevant receivers here, and I haven't even mentioned Hollywood Brown. Is he even a consideration anymore?
I guess if you're desperate, but it seems didn't he score last week too? Everybody, hey, you get a touchdown. But yeah, Hollywood Brown. Juju, Thornton, if you want to flex these guys, this is a tough. I mean, this is a much tougher matchup than last week. This Jags defense looks good. Thornton could always hit a home run. Juju, I guess, could score. I mean, they're like flexes that I don't love. Worthy's got to be solid here. I don't necessarily love Worthy this week because, again, Jags defense does look good, but he's got Mahomes. He's a clear number one here. He's solid.
Yeah, I think Worthy has to be solid. He's always got that big play in him. I mean, you saw that they were going to him early and pretty often. They still spread the ball around enough to be annoying. Yeah, those other guys, sure, you could flex them because obviously they all have touchdown upside, but that's it. And then as far as the Jags, I mean, look, like Brian Thomas Jr. hasn't given you nothing, but he has definitely not delivered anything close to what you expected. And then, I mean, Travis Hunter, is he still just like hanging on by a thread to fantasy relevance or what?
I mean, I will say he got a little more involved last week. Maybe he'll start trending up, but I cannot start Travis Hunter. And then I'll say this about Brian Thomas Jr. You know what? I'm sticking to my guns this week. So if you go back and watch the wide receiver start sit video last week, I said just a flex. But then as the week went on, I'm like, can I really sit Brian Thomas Jr. for wide receiver X, wide receiver? Yeah, you know what? I can. No, I don't care what his name is. He's been terrible this year. He's been bad. And why is that going to change against the Chiefs? No, he's a flex. You could flex him, but that's it.
That's it. Like, the Chiefs' defense is legit. Two good corners with McDuffie and Watson. And so, like, on the one hand, BTJ, he tied for the team lead in targets. All right, 7 targets. He caught 5 of those 7 targets. That's a plus. But his long was 14 yards. It's just not enough, all right? I mean, we don't want, like, a taller Wan'Dale Robinson. So he's a flex, but that's it. All right, those are all the wide receivers you need to know about for week 5. If you didn't catch the running back video, quarterback, tight end, everything you need to help win this week in fantasy, it's right here.